Yeah, so hello everyone. I just thought I'd do a little video. Um, yeah, I find it easy talking to the camera while you're driving, so I just went and bought a little camera holder there so I can do some videos while I'm driving around. Just going to pick up some materials for work now. But yeah, just thought I'd do a little talk on the way, because it's easy to talk while you're doing something. And yeah, basically what I wanted to talk about is like my reason how I got into surfing bigger waves and why I wanted to pursue this. You know, it's really been like a childhood dream what I'm chasing at now 35. When I was younger, I always had to my dad was a surfer and he'd get me some DVDs and stuff, like Riding Giants, the guys surfing when they started out in like Makaha, stuff like that, and Billabong Odyssey. Used to watch some other videos of like Ace Cool and stuff. I don't know, that's going back. VHS tapes of Ace Cool getting dropped in off the helicopter and out the back and stuff. And I always looked at it and I was just so amazed by it. Watching the videos would like scare me. Like when you see the waves, I'd be like, there was always this part of fear inside of me when I'm looking at it, because I knew like in my heart, I want to do that. But it always seemed like something like, how do you get to the level? How do these guys get to the level where they're even attempting this stuff? Because it just seems so out of the question that you could even do it. I was I'd watch it and I'd think that's so scary, but something inside of me wanted to do that. Whether it was like, conquering the fear of it, or I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever, guys just going out in these massive waves and just, surfing them, and what it took to do that just seemed like such a big challenge. So yeah, basically, I'd look at all that sort of stuff. I used to work in a surf shop when I was like 15, 16, an old surf shop was here in Jersey, Freedom Surf Shop, and they'd have the pictures on the walls of guys at like, Laird Hamilton, Chopu, the Millennium Wave, which I've now got hanging up at home in my house. Just that inspiration, and then like pictures of guys at like Pipeline and stuff. I just look at it and be in awe of it. But yeah, so basically, I don't know, I've always liked going out in bigger surf and stuff. I've always just given it a shot, when I wanted to go out. If I was scared, then I would force myself to do it, because it's like, well, what are you scared for? The fact that you're scared, you just have to do it now. You know what I mean? But I was mainly surfing my local beach break and stuff, St. Juan's Bay, which can get pretty big, and it can get hollow as well at low tide. You can get a good beat down there at the Splash or La Brea. But I mean, it started, there was one day at Secrets. I've been surfing since I was about 13, 14, on and off, near enough my whole life. I got on a surfboard when I was younger as well. But yeah, it was only the past I don't know, I was surfing loads, you know, throughout my 20s and stuff, on and off, and then had injuries and that. And then, you know, I went through a couple of life-changing events within the past few years. There was this one day where I was out at Secrets, which is another surf spot in Jersey, and you know, it was like double overhead or something. It was like the biggest surf I'd been out in at the time. But yeah, basically I went out this day and I took off on the first wave of a set, like, you know, an idiot, but the brake can still be pretty heavy, and just ended up taking about 4 or 5, like, you know, powerful waves on the head, and I was getting thrashed around. You know, it's my first proper thrashing in the water, even though I've had hold downs and all that, but this was my first one where I was like, whoa, you know, shocked you, because it was so much more powerful than the rest. And then I don't know, it was just like something went off in my brain. I'm like, right, I want to surf bigger waves now. I want to, you know, it's like, oh, the survival factor, you know, you get it and you're like, oh, I can survive this. It's not as bad as I thought. And then, yeah, I remember just like speaking to my mum after that. And I just thought, I was like saying to my mum, I'm like, I want to surf big waves, like, you know, feel like I want to go for it. She was saying to me, she was like, just go for it. She's always encouraged me. You know, I'm lucky to have had a mum. Now, I was raised by a single parent, my mum. So she's always encouraged me to do whatever I want, really, you know, and believe in me. So yeah, being blessed with that, really. But yeah, she was saying that to me, and then, you know, not even long after that, it must have been about a month or so, you know, my mum passed away, which was like, you know, destroyed me. You know, I was just so flipping destroyed, and you know, it's hard to even speak about this. It still affects me now, you know, because my mum was like my only true friend, you know. Your mum always has your back in life anyway, you know. So basically, keeping it about surfing, you know, I was down for a good while, you know, and it was late in that year. We went on holiday to just get a bit of a break, you know. It was stressful times, you know, having to sort out, you know, funeral stuff, and, you know, sorting out my mum's stuff. We'd been evicted from a house, you know, everything was just going a bit pear-shaped, and, you know, we had our first daughter, my daughter, on the way. You know, it was just chaos, mental chaos, you know. And dealing with grief and everything, it was just a lot. So, you know, I was around that time, I was sitting around, you know, I'd go to the beach, I'd want to go surfing, and I would just stare at the water, wouldn't even want to get out of the car, I was that down, you know. And I just was thinking, like, would my mum want me to be doing this, you know, like. So I just forced myself to go out, and, like, you know, I was getting into the water. You know, I'd catch a wave for the brief moment, you know, when you just, nothing else matters when you're on the wave. That was my moment of freedom, you know. And then, like, even after that, you know, sometimes I'd break, just burst out flipping crying in the water. I'd go and surf places on my own, because I knew that I was, like, the emotional calm down and everything. And, you know, I know I'm sharing this, but I think it's good to share these type of things, because, you know, people who are struggling with grief, loss, or mental health problems and stuff, you know, I've lost too many people to care about. hiding my feelings anymore, but I was, I'd go into the water crying, come out and I'd feel extremely depressed, but that was my way of connecting with my, those moments. It's my mum who got me my first surfboard and stuff. I just thought, I'm just going to do this for her, and I'm going to find a way to bring some happiness back into my life and stuff. So I was going out, I met some friends that year, and they like surfing some of the reef breaks and stuff, which are like a bit obscure places over here. So I'd surfed a couple on my own before I met them, and then it was sort of like, oh cool, we got this a little crew of guys who like doing little exploration stuff and that, and it was good to just go out. But yeah, I started surfing at some other places on my own and that. Before I know it, I was getting quite comfortable at reef breaks, which before, I'd surfed reef breaks and that before, but I mean, some of the ones over here, they're pretty like jagged, gnarly breaks, and they can get quite shallow and stuff. Most of the waves over here are like sort of slabby. But yeah, so getting back to what I was saying, I just started doing that as my release and stuff. And then we went away towards the end of the year down to the south of France, and I surfed at Parlementier, and it was quite big there. It was like a bit more than double overhead, but like I got this old Freedom 70s gun and I took it down there with me, and caught some waves there. And there you really feel the drop of like the bigger wave. When you're going down it, you're like, right, this is this feels starting to feel like a bigger wave. So that gave me a lot of confidence when I was there. So I don't know what it was. I just had this drive, like, I'd lost my mum, some other people very close to me within the same year, and a friend who was quite close to me was going surfing with me as well. He'd got an injury, and, things weren't going great, mental health and stuff, and, don't want to go too much into it, but, we ended up losing a good friend of ours as well, and all in the same year. So I don't know, I think it just inspired me out of the fact of life is just, we're here for a short time. You never know when you're gonna leave. You never know which day you wake up, and I believe that people's times to leave, we're never gonna know. So we're gonna have to just live the life to the fullest. No day is promised to anyone, and that was what gave me this wake-up call. I thought I need to sort of snap out of this depression and try and make the most out of life while I'm here, because I just want to experience it to the fullest. So yeah, things had been going wrong for quite a while, but this was like my therapy. Surfing has always been like therapy for me. I think I was undiagnosed with like ADHD or something. When I was younger, I was kicked out of my secondary school and sent to like a naughty school at the time, in the early 2000s, but it was classed as a naughty school. But I think that most people there were like, neurodivergent or something, never been diagnosed. I was just labelled like, oh, this is a disruptive child or teenager. Do you know what I mean? chilled out a lot now, but surfing has always just helped regulate my emotions, and I don't know whether I'm addicted to the adrenaline rush. I'm definitely addicted to the adrenaline rush, but I think that it might be a bit more than that. Like, I think that people with these type of differences, they look for things which are, engross them into it. Like, that's what surfing is for me. So yeah, so basically it was like an amalgamation of, I said this to my mom, like I wanted to pursue it. I've always wanted to pursue it, but when I was younger, I was just too busy, going out drinking, doing all these other things, and just wasting my time basically in life. Yeah, I was drinking, used to smoke weed, flipping, do whatever, going out getting absolutely smashed and stuff. So I was just wasting my time. Used to go surfing all the time, but it was more just like, the carefree, just do it, whatever. But like, I really realized that I like doing this. So yeah, it was to do with the loss, to do with the, wanting to fulfill one of my dreams. I said to myself, look, I want to at least surf a 20-foot wave. Like, that's like the entry point to big wave surfing, apparently. Even though some people think that like double overhead is big, like I thought double overhead was big. But then it's weird, you build up like a tolerance to it. But yeah, so going away to France, and then I come back to Jersey, I'm like, right, I want to start surfing some of the bigger reef breaks here. But the only difference is the reef breaks here are like, they seem way more extreme than like any of the ones in France where I've come across, apart from like, well, there is extreme ones there, but I mean, where we live, it's like a rugged coast. The tide's constantly changing, so you get like a max about an hour or so, 2 hours, on the push or on the drop to like surf some of these spots before it gets too shallow. Sometimes the tide can change so quick, you're out there, and it's just, it can be the difference between a wave where it's like sucking off the reef dry, from like, you can wait for a set before it's got too flipping shallow, so you got to be so careful around here, know your spots and everything. But yeah, started going out at a few spots over here and stuff, and then I realized like, right, I think I can do this. I'm not trying to sound big-headed or anything, but like, I'm pretty flipping crazy. I don't know whether it's like the risk factor or what, like, I just sort of put it out of my mind. Maybe it's carelessness or what, I don't know, but I just thought like, if I'm not the flipping person to give this a go, like, I'm not sure who is, because I watch these guys, I realize like everyone is just a human as well. Like, if they can do it, then surely there's a way that I can get close to doing it. Sorry if I'm just ranting off, my mind jumps around a lot, but yeah, so I thought that yeah, it's possible, like, if these guys are like mad enough to go for it, obviously the skill and everything what goes into it, and I think I've got enough skill. I'm not the best surfer in the world, but I mean, I've been surfing long enough to know my positioning. I've been surfing pretty much my whole life, but I'm not like a guy I'm a longboarder, like I like high performance longboarding, but I'm not really like a guy who chops around on a wave and is mega technical. Like, I just like power surfing, you know, on a longboard, like the 90s style. But yeah, I just thought, well, I want to give this a go, like, you know. So where was I? So yeah, I started looking into it, realized, you know, a lot of it is down to like breath work, and you need to be able to hold your breath. I mean, it's changed my life, yeah, because I used to smoke and everything, like tobacco, rollies and stuff. Like, I've had to cut that out. I've had to cut out drinking. I've had to cut out, you know, all my habits, my bad habits, so I can pursue this, you know. Like, I've damaged my lungs, my body and stuff for quite a long time, you know. So, but I've managed to be able to through the training, be able to hold my breath for, like, you know, 3.5 minutes. And that's with, like, you know, minimal training stuff. But you know, I'm really gonna start pushing it. But the main thing what I've found through this is, like, you know, even with the breath training and stuff, you know, it's done wonders for my mental health and stuff as well, because I realized, you know, 90% of the getting out into bigger waves and stuff is like the mental preparation. Like, it's a mind game between you and your own thoughts, you know. Like, you need to be able to overcome doubts and fears and everything, you know, because you're going to be scared like every single time. And that's translated into my life, you know, within, like, you know, not overcoming, because I'm still suffering from it, but dealing with your emotions, like even all the things when I was younger and stuff, you know, my concentration, everything, like, it seems like it's all been channeled into this one thing, and it's helped sort it out, you know, because the breath work, you need to be able to control your emotions in the situations when the big waves are coming towards you. You're out there, you know, you're feeling tense, you're feeling scared, and you're feeling nervous, you know, but you need to be able to control that. And the breath work is not just about holding your breath. It's about being able to control your emotions and your heart rate and everything. And, like, that just translates into everyday life as well. You know, I wish that someone came into our school when we were younger and taught us about this. You know, eventually one day I would love to do that, you know, speak to people who are like myself, yeah, and just try and channel them, give them that tool, you know, so maybe they could channel it into whatever, you know, surfing, skating, boxing, sports, art, whatever, you know, just to be able to manage yourself more. Like, no one taught us this stuff. Really, it should be taught in schools, yeah. But getting back to the point, yeah, so ended up on this path, and so far it's taken me to flipping, you know, Nazaré, a place I never thought I'd go in my entire life, yeah. Surf some of the reefs here in my local, in Jersey, which are like, you know, you've just looked at them from off the shore for years on end and thought, will I ever surf this? That just looks too crazy, you know. And now it's got to the point where there's only one or two of them left, you know, to go out and surf. You know, and I feel completely different about it. I feel like I can handle it, you know. And I've been back down to France and surfed some pretty big waves. I mean, like, bigger than 20 foot. And, you know, to me, that was a dream years ago. Like, I did not think it would be possible at all to get to this point. Now I'm wanting more, like the tolerance goes up, you get in bigger and bigger surf, and then it doesn't feel as scary anymore. Once you've taken the wipeouts, the hold downs and stuff, I can survive this. And you want it more, like, well, it's an addiction, isn't it? A healthy addiction, which is good. But yeah, so you get out there, and then, you face the fears and stuff, and all of a sudden you're thinking, right, I can push this to the next level. So what I want to do with this channel is, like, give people who are thinking about it or whatever, someone who's just, you're not been doing this since you were mad young, getting trained up or sponsored or anything. This is just me doing it off my own back, at 35 years old. I started this a couple of years ago, building my tolerance up for bigger and bigger surf. So yeah, I just wanted to share the process and, how I got into it. Thought I'd give myself a bit of background. I'm just a normal bloke. I'm a painter and decorator, and I live on a small little island. So if I can do it, anyone can. If you're younger than me, then you've got an even better chance. I said to myself, maybe I've got 10 more years. I've got problems with my knees from skating and stuff when I was younger. Done a lot of skating, but I just thought, 10 years. Look, I'll give myself 10 years, see what I can do. But already so far from this winter alone, I've exceeded the expectations what I even had. So, I thought, I'm going to document this, share it with people, and hopefully other people can do the same. So basically what I wanted to get across in this video is, like, I'm no one special, not a sponsored surfer, never been a sponsored surfer. I never won a heat in a flipping surf contest in my whole life. I've been in a few joke ones, where you surf like novelty boards, switching up your boards and stuff like that. But, I've never won a heat. All the surfers in Jersey are such a high level, You think you're never going to get to that level. Like, when you're surrounded by such good surfers, I don't know, maybe the level's quite good when you go away or whatever, but the surfers here are really good. But for some reason I've just taken to the surfing the bigger waves. I think my mind is built for it, because I'm quite good at keeping calm under pressure and that. But yeah, these are my reasons why I started doing it, and I just wanted to prove something to myself, and also, like, keep my word to my mum. Like I said, I wanted to do this. It's my way of. It's actually my mum's gift to me. She was the one who gave me the gift of surfing. Got me my board. We went away together when I was younger and stuff. We go to like Morocco and that. She'd be like, "Tom, just go surfing, get in. Flipping, do it." So, like, yeah, it's like my way of, I don't know, using the gift to the fullest. Surfing is a gift for everyone. Like, it's a gift from the Hawaiians to the world. Like, that's what I believe. It's probably the best gift they've given. Well, yeah, it is the best gift. How many surfers are there around the world? But yeah, it's the gift for the Hawaiians. It's the gift for your mum and dad who buy you that surfboard. It's the gift from the sea, nature. So I just want to do it to the max, follow my dreams and my passions. Take everyone along on the journey with me. Hopefully inspire some other people to do it. But yeah, anything's possible. So I'll probably cut the video short now. I've rambled on and off, but yeah, these are my reasons, and this is my story and my journey. It's quite hard sharing this stuff and even talking to a camera as well, but you know what? Life's for living, and sharing your experiences and making the most out of it. So yeah, if you like it, please subscribe to me and be sure to get in touch and everything. Yeah, I'm happy to be doing this, like I said in my last video. So thank you everyone for watching if you made it this far. And I'm here at the trade centre now, so I'm going to have to go and get my paint. But yeah, peace everyone. I'll catch you soon on the next video. I'm going to talk a bit about, what it was like going to Nazareth for the first time and stuff, and what I did to prepare. And then I'll show you some pictures, videos, and then I'm going to, from there on, I'm going to talk through some other surf experiences and that, and help guide people along the way. So yeah, anyway, if you see my last video or this one and you liked it, thank you so much, and please leave comments below as well. I'd love to get back to anyone or any questions. But yeah, thank you guys. Bye.